What's up everybody, A Spare With a Gun here from Sleepless Night Studios, and I am trying out a new game, so this is going to be a first impressions type video. You'll have to let me know if it's something that you guys would like to see more of gameplay of and stuff like that on my channel. As you all know, I've been kind of looking for something to possibly fill the slot on Saturday, which at the moment was going to be building a build series type thing for Space Engineers, but I decided to throw this one out here this week, get you guys' reactions on it and such, and be honest, if you don't want to see any more of it, it's fine, perfectly fine. This is Empyrion Galactic Survival. I'm not a huge fan of the subtext. I think it would have been cool if it was just Empyrion, but now it's very important to note this is pre-alpha, so very early access, which I'm not even sure what a pre-alpha is, because in gameplay development usually alphas are kept in-house until recently with the big early access alpha boom started kind of by Minecraft. But I'm not really even sure what a pre-alpha qualifies as. But anyways, that's the stage that the developers are stating that the game is in, is pre-alpha at the moment. Now, they have been patching it very repetitively or very frequently, so that's a good sign that they've been adding things. It does have a little bit of a light tutorial system. You'll see over here on the side we've got tutorial wiki type thing. This link basically will take you directly to a web page wiki where it kind of goes over the basics of getting started. It does link to various different YouTubers who have kind of done kind of first impression type videos where it's about getting started. Important thing to note is that it is one of those where because it's early, I mean, if you think about it, Space Engineers recently just started throwing in more and more tutorial scenarios, but it took them a while to get an actual tutorial going, so I don't really fault them for that. That's not a huge deal. I think my one critique would be that the wiki page is linking to a bunch of other different various YouTubers, so you can get kind of overlap of information, or it's not very coordinated, is I guess my point. It would be nice to see the developers, if they don't already have a YouTube channel with various different tutorial videos, that they show you how to do things, but that's neither here nor there. That really has nothing to do with the game. It's just a critique, I suppose. So we're going to go ahead and get started with a new game. Let's call this First World, because oh, you can't use spaces, I forgot. Because no doubt with a game like this, similar to Space Engineers, they'll probably make updates that will eventually kind of break things. There is a creative mode where you can pick different locations. Survival, you're destined to start on Omicron, or whatever. Omicron is a desert planet with mountain ranges, lakes, plains, and rugged terrain. The atmosphere is relatively thin and non-breathable. However, oxygen can be generated from the water of the lakes. The average temperature is 32 degrees Celsius, and gravity amounts to a comfortable 9.8 meters per second squared. Sorry, it's just that last part made me think Weatherman for some reason. So we're going to go ahead and start things up. A base in water makes oxygen production easier. Well, now, I had not thought about that. Now, first thing a lot of you, especially from my channel, are going to notice is the very, 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 very similar block building structure of Space Engineers. I will admit, the first thing I thought of when I saw this was kind of a Space Engineers ripoff. I don't think that's really giving the game a lot of credit, though, for what it is trying to do. To me, okay, let's get this out of the way, because I know that a lot of people, as soon as I saw this, I was like, what? They're just copying Space Engineers, which I won't sugarcoat it in a way they kind of are, with the building style of using the cubes, slanted cubes, curves. It almost is like verbatim how they're doing things. But let me preface this right off the bat. So this is almost as if they're tackling a similar style of game as Space Engineers from a very different point of view. Space Engineers and Keen Software House have kind of tackled it from a building, expanding the building mechanics and such, but an exploration. They're now into a virtually procedurally generated scenario, working on getting planets involved. You'll notice we are already on a planet. That's important. I believe you can actually go to the planets that you see. Like that one is one of these is like a moon, one of them is like a broken up asteroid, etc., etc. So, actually, if you hit M, you can get your map, which is... I like the 3D map. I think that's pretty cool. The world generation looks like it... I don't know. I'm no procedurally generated expert, but it looks like they could do a little bit to maybe make it a little bit more believable, uniform, whatever you want to call it. There is a day-night cycle, at least on this planet. I believe if you hit... Can you click on these? No. I thought you could, because they had symbols of, like, world, solar system, galaxy. According to the logs, which I'll pull up a screenshot of the first-time loading screen type thing right now. And you can see that it says, references that there will eventually be a procedurally generated galaxy. At the moment, some of the points of interest on each planet are handmade, but the planet overall terrain is procedurally generated, etc., etc., etc. So they do have plans, and I'm going to take this down, but you can pause the video if you want to read the rest of that. So I'm going to try my darndest to walk you guys through the basics, but I don't really know how long that will take, so I might have to cut out some building time, I'm not sure. But as I started to say about the idea, so Space Engineers is tackling their game from a very an engineering standpoint. Construction, building, various block mechanics. There's tons of blocks in Space Engineers to build with. From what I can see, there's a much more reduced number of shapes and blocks. Not block types, because there are different block types, but like shapes overall. There's not as many, 2x1 ramps and, different angles like that. It pretty much follows the basic, the vanilla blocks that Space Engineers started with. However, they're already working on planets. You can see on the, if I hit inventory, you can see our character here. And down here we've got health, food, oxygen, stamina, we have weapons, and so on and so forth. So they are kind of tackling this a bit more, it seems to me, this is not from the devs, this is just my own point of view of the game, that they're tackling it more from a survival point of view, where Keen is developing Space Engineers more from a building and spaceship and construction point of view. And not putting as much attention into the survival aspect. Not to say that they don't have plans to, it's just how they're developing it now. This is the fuel tank, which is how you power said ship. This is our small ship cockpit. And there's one big factor. That's a food container. This is the one you want, though, to start things off. These are your basic ingots. We've got silicon, copper, iron, cobalt, and this thing, neodymium. Plastic raw material, magnesium powder. Promethium pellets are what you use to make fuel, so that's important. Speaking of fuel, one of these containers, you use T by default to access things. When you get that little yellow square, you can access it. We've got an extra projectile pistol. We have a flashlight. I might actually... Well, no, I'll grab that. 50 caliber rounds, which are what the projectile pistol uses. We have a drill charge. This is what our drill uses, so we can mine. Purified water, I'm not really sure what it does, because it restores 50 stamina, and that's it by the looks of things. But stamina kind of regenerates over time anyway, so I'm not really sure what the point of that is. Rations obviously give you food. Antidotes, the antidote pills work against bites. Filler and flatten tool, I'm going to move these around a little bit. Filler and flatten tool are like your terrain editing, terraforming, to where you can flatten out so you can place base stuff. Small med kit cures open wounds and food poisoning. Also restores 150 health if you get injured. And over here we've got oxygen bottles, which are obviously very important. Fuel packs, which are very important. Oxygen generator and core we'll use in a minute, but they're not particularly vital right now because we have to place the oxygen generator somewhere. I'm going to place it out in the water because you get about an 80% supply out of the water. Makes sense. Water is, you know, a third oxygen. So core is used to make a base, or it's essentially like clicking new ship in Space Engineers. It would be like new small ship, new large ship, new station. You'll need a core for that kind of stuff, for those types of things. So the ship isn't powered. I don't have any fuel, but were it powered, you'd click on this oxygen tank, throw one of these bottles in here, and then stand in front of the oxygen station, and we would refill our air. We don't need to do that right now, so I'm not going to. First thing we want to do is get a base going. So we're going to throw a couple of these fuel packs in here so that the fuel tank has gas. Now, I don't have the ship on, so it won't use gas at the moment. So there's 4 tabs here. We've got weapons and items, which the first thing I would recommend building is the remove and repair tool. This is not particularly vital, but it does allow you to remove base blocks and things. If you don't have it, once you place a block, it's kind of there, at least from my experience, which is, I've played about an hour, give or take, of the game just to get my feet wet. And so I wasn't flying blind with something this complicated. I wanted to make sure I had the crafting mechanics down, all that kind of stuff. Then we have building blocks, which is your basic like hull, etc., etc. And you'll also notice this. This is a quick reference. There's red, yellow, green, and blue dots over various different blocks. Like these are red and yellow, but you don't see the green and blue. This is the legend up here. So red is for objects for bases, yellow is capital vessels, essentially the equivalent of a large ship in Space Engineers, green, small vessels, again, small ship, and then blue, which has ground vessels. This was a cool aspect to me because they actually made ground vessels separate. To make a ground vessel, you need a ground vessel starter, much like we need a base starter, and you'll notice we need 8 on the right side over in this section. You'll see what you need. 8 hull blocks, 1 core. We have the 1 core already. So we need to make 8 of these, and you'll notice these need 2 metal plates. And this is what I was referring to before. We've got kind of the basic shapes that we've seen before, and then there are some cosmetic stuff, like ramps, top, bottom. Oh, I guess they do have a 2x1 section, but these are only for base and capital ships. These will not work on small vessels or ground. Same with all the windows and interior blocks. Vertical slope, window vertical 1. Now, I don't know the difference between these two. I never got that far so far. Here we have components, as you can see by that tooltip. And, you know, iron ingots, iron ore, copper ingots, copper ore, so on and so forth for all the bars. Rock dust is crushed stone. Promethium pellets is for Promethian ore. Fuel packs, 10 Promethium pellets. So we have enough to make 12 Promethium packs. Now, there's two very, very big important factors to crafting. And let me go ahead and jump in the ship. And the cockpit is actually pretty cool. I like the design. That's one area where they did kind of their own thing. You do hit Y to turn the ship on. It's got some cool effects all over the place. We can see docked no, power left, distance to orbit, that's new. Power usage. And if you hit P by default, you'll go and you can kind of access the different things, turn them on and off. I did turn... Okay, and this is for your whole ship, by the way. This is the overall status. This is the individual thing that you've selected status, and then it does have a filter that you can type in. So if you were to do thrusters, etc., etc. I'm going to turn this off, though I don't know if it actually consumes any fuel different. I don't see any difference on the overall panel. If we were to turn this off, it would be like turning the entire ship off. So now the ship's running. So if we were to select one of these components, we would get something. So first of all, we need 8 of these, which we need 16 metal plates to make 8 of those. Now, there's 2 very important factors. One, you'll notice over here on the right, under craft time, there's output count. This was something I failed to recognize. And if you want to build any of this stuff, you will need these in your inventory down here, and this is what you're currently actively building. So we're going to go ahead and throw these in. I'm shift left clicking, and it throws all those in. And now you'll see these lit up and are not red anymore because we can craft them. So even though we're going to need 16 to build 8 of these, and you'll notice anything that doesn't have an output count, you're only going to get 1. But anything like the metal plates that say output count 10, I craft this once, and it will give me 10 metal plates. Very important. I misclicked a bunch, and I ended up with like 200 metal plates, and I was like, oh, my bad. So that's important to note. The other thing is when you go to devices, your devices are where you get your big blocks, constructors, oxygen tanks, oxygen stations, etc., etc. But there is one very important tooltip, and right at the bottom there you'll notice placeable, and it says GV or SV. This took me a minute to figure out, and always make sure you're building the right one. So oxygen station here says this is basically ground vehicle or small vehicle. Okay? And you can also notice that again if you're paying attention to the little colors. It's green and blue, which means small or ground. However, where is... Oh, that's right. There is... You don't see the base oxygen system because you actually need the large constructor. We're currently in a normal constructor. A small one, which you can see again, this one says down here, and with the little colors, that this is for a ground vehicle and a small vehicle. So considering that we're actually using a small vehicle, we can't build a oxygen station for a base. So we need this one, which is only on a capital vessel or a base. So we need the large one. So this is what I would recommend you build first after your base template. Again, this is just from what I've learned from playing the game, but there may be better ways to do it, I don't know. So we want to build 8 of those while we're doing that. And you can see the day-night cycle right here. I will say, the game, the art assets they have in place at the moment are not super stellar. I mean, they're not anything like, oh my gosh, this is the, you know, a la Ark. Like, this is the best looking game of all time kind of thing. You know, I shouldn't say that Ark's not the best looking game of all time either, but for being like an alpha, Ark is very impressive. However, I have to give them credit for performance. A lot of you know from my channel that watch Space Engineers, I run into, time to time, some performance problems with Space Engineers the bigger the builds get. Now, granted, I haven't made big builds yet in this game because I haven't had the resources. Again, I've only played an hour or so. But from what I've seen, the game runs very, very well considering it's even considered a pre-alpha and not even a full alpha. So there's that. It doesn't look all that great other than some of the building blocks, and the lighting is pretty good and stuff, but overall textures aren't very high quality at the moment. AI for wildlife and stuff are very glitchy. But we'll get into that in a minute. I mostly wanted to give you guys kind of a brief overview of kind of the start stuff. Oh, right. That's the only other thing that I have a big problem with. There's no current way to clear the queue once you've clicked on multiple things. However, if you don't have enough blocks, it obviously can't make it and will get rid of it. But I do kind of have a problem with that as far as you should be able to right-click or shift-click or something to get rid of the queue, but it is early access, so you have to cut them a little bit of slack here and there. And some of these bugs like that, it only made 1 because that's all it's allowed to make. So we're going to place this here. I'm going to go ahead and tell it the output count on a fuel pack is 2. So I'm going to go ahead and tell it to make 2, and that'll give us 4. But while it's doing that, let me grab our oxygen generator. And if you hit the V key by default, you can see our character here. It's kind of hard to see because it's dark at the moment. So we can walk. If you hold shift, you can run. Spacebar jumps. You know, all the kind of the standard gameplay mechanics. If I remapped, because of Space Engineers, I'm so used to it, I remapped my jetpack key to X. It's defaulted on J. And if you turn it on, you'll see the little glowy lights. And down here, you'll see a little bar. Now, this is one area that's a little different. You don't have an energy, but you have a limited flight time. And then you kind of fall back down due to gravity. Now, in space, that would work a little different because, well, you're not dealing with gravity, obviously. When we click on... And I didn't really specify this, but you can click and then drag things around. I'm not holding the button. And then you can put things in the hotbar over here. It takes a little getting used to if you're used to Space Engineers because the bar's on the bottom. But it's not that big a deal. You can drop things and you can trash things if you find something you don't like. And if we hit the button, you'll see a box. If it's red like this, you can't place it, and it'll tell you need to flatten the terrain first. If it's like this, it'll say created new base, and voila, we have our new base. I believe I have my flashlight with me. So this core, if you hit P, I'm sorry, you'll pull up the control panel. It'll say fuel tank missing, generator missing, etc., etc. So it works kind of like a normal ship in that regard. So that's pretty cool. And as I said, I put this in the base because, or I mean in the water because, as it mentioned before, water is one of the better sources to generate oxygen. Oxygen generators do require the fuel packs, so it's very important. And you'll notice if we hit M, we've got our escape pod, and you've got a little base symbol to show you where your base is. This almost reminds me of the Spore map. But it also highlights deposits. I don't know exactly what the perimeter on said deposits are, as far as how close you have to get to trigger it. But you can see an iron over there. This one is very important because this is basically like fuel, the Promethean deposit, so we really want to take note of that. And then if you hit 0, put stuff away. I didn't really mention it before, when you're in third person, Alt works like Space Engineers. It lets you move the camera around, and you can mouse wheel to increase and decrease your distance from the character. You can also mouse wheel up the hotbar if you like. One big thing though, while we're on our way back to the base, oh, my jetpack's still on, our base, the escape pod, one of the biggest reasons I went ahead and bought the game and wanted to do a Let's Play, or at least a first impressions video, and get you guys' opinions on it, and again, this is showing how this works. You throw an oxygen bottle in there, then if we get close to the station, you'll see our oxygen bar filling up, so that's what one bottle did. I try and use my stuff sparingly until I get a base going. Some of you may also be wondering why I'm not tearing this down. This works a little different than Space Engineers Grinder, where it's a 1-to-1 and you get everything back. You get a percentage back. Now, whether that changes in the future, it remains to be seen. I don't know what their plans are on all that stuff. But, so at the moment, I'm kind of trying to not do that for now. So, this is relatively expensive, the large container, or constructor. This also works a bit like Minecraft, or if you're familiar with, like, Feed the Beast, you'll be used to this, that some components require other smaller components. For example, computers. First thing on the list, 2 computers. Computers bug me to make at the moment, because a computer requires 1 control device, which is this guy. It requires 2 metal components, which is this one. And then it requires 2 cables, this one. And 2 electronics, which is this one. Now, all of these require various different ingots. We have a lot of them at the moment, so I'm not particularly worried about it. So the system is, if you want a computer, you go 1 of these, 1 of these, 1 of these, 2 of these. And because these output 2, this one outputs 1, this one outputs 1, you get exactly what you need for one computer. But when it says stuff, when you're looking at the recipes for things, and it says like 10 metal components, you also have to factor in other components that require the metal components. So that can get a little annoying because of how it's set up. It works, again, it works similar to Feed the Beast and stuff, that they didn't really explain everything either. Sometimes you had to kind of do math yourself, but it can be a little tedious sometimes when you're having to come up with your own formulas for what things are going to cost you and stuff like that. Actually, I believe the motors are the most expensive component to the large constructor, because the motors... Oh, that's a reactor core. Motors require... Oh, I take that back. They're not that bad. So that's 3 cables, 2 metal components, and 1 electronics. And we need 2 of those, I believe. Yes, 2 of those. So, ultimately, you kind of get the idea of how this works, as far as, you know, you end up with stuff in your inventory here, blah, 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 blah. All well and good. So, in the interest of time, I think, again, you could do the math and figure out exactly how many of these you need and all that stuff, but I'm going to go ahead and make a couple things. We'll go over the costs of said things, and stuff like that, and then we'll look at maybe setting up some different things. So I'm going to pause it for a brief moment and work on amassing some components so we can move further along with kind of showing you guys how to start things up. Alrighty, so I did not realize it before, but there's this nice little clock up here that this is the planetary time, but I'm pretty sure this is just how long you spent in-game. So you can see about how long compare between before I cut away to now, and you can kind of see how long that took. Let me go ahead and grab... I made a remove and repair tool, which the tooltip tells you left mouse for remove, right mouse to repair. Drill is left mouse for drilling strong, right for drilling weak. I'm not really entirely sure what the difference is. And currently there is no way to like aim down the sights, so for just pistols and offensive weapons you're just kind of like shooting, if my memory serves, because unless that's just with pistols, and maybe with the assault rifles or something there is a different way to do it. I don't know. So I made some extra fuel packs out of our Promethean pellets. Promethean, that's Promethium, sorry. And I also made some remove and repair charges. But the biggest things is we had the oxygen generator from the compartments. I made a small fuel tank. Again, pay very close attention to the little colors or the abbreviations where it's placeable. You want to make sure it's BA so that you can place in a base somewhere. So I made a small fuel tank, small generator, and a large constructor. That's pretty much all we're going to need from this place, basically, from this little escape pod. So we're just going to go ahead and turn that off. I'm not going to grab these, only because in my first playthrough, something, I don't remember if it was the seeds or not, but they spoiled, because I had them in my inventory. So I'm going to leave them in there for now. And I think I'm good on oxygen, and I can probably end up building another oxygen machine by the time I need more air. One thing that I wanted to mention before, and I didn't really get around to it, is one of the biggest reasons I went ahead and purchased the game and decided to do a first impressions video is a statement that Keen have made repeatedly, that they really don't have a whole lot of intention for combat and like alien life. And I was a little disappointed in that, but I get it. It's Space Engineers, not Space Marine or something. But this game, Empyrion, I believe is the name of it. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. Obviously already has alien life, and there's multiple different weapons you can get. It's like pistol, shotgun, rocket launcher, assault rifle. Like, it's very clear that they are going more of a traditional hostile things, night's bad, all that kind of stuff, on different planets, different life forms, etc., etc., etc. And yes, I am aware. I definitely need food. I'm going to go ahead and place our generator right there. And if you walk up and hit T, you can see no energy source, operational time, which is going to tell you how long it's operating, I think. Let's go ahead and put 2 in there. So it's on... Oh, it has this long of operation in minutes, so it has 45 minutes. It will give me another one of these oxygen bottles in about 100 seconds, and it has a 80% oxygen source quality. So that's why water is pretty good. That way it can be making more oxygen. So what we want to do... Now this part is a little bit tricky. I screwed it up the first time. I'm hoping I don't make the same mistake again. And there currently is no tooltip, but basically the rotation controls work about the same as Space Engineers, that, they work on a different axis and stuff. So this is the small fuel tank, which is where we can put our fuel cells. However, it doesn't directly power the base. I believe the base you need one of these, which is a generator. I don't entirely know where to put it. I think it has to be next to the fuel tank, though. So I'm just going... That's the wrong way. Nope. Nope. One of these. There we go. I'm going to place it like that. And hopefully that will work. This one requires a similar orientation. I don't know if this needs to go next to the generator or not. I'm a little leery of placing that down and having it wrong, but I need this to actually build anything. So... It won't exactly be super efficient, but I'm wondering if I should just place it like this. Oh yeah, and then there's this guy. He's the only hostile mob I've ever seen that's just obviously hostile because he's trying to get at me, so I'm really glad I'm up here on my base. So stuff like that. That's stuff you don't find in Space Engineers, so I was really excited about that aspect of the game. So, we can see this fuels up. It never actually occurred to me to power the thing. That's probably why the generator didn't work before. So, generator's working now. And you'll notice that we've got some different blocks at this point. Different interior lights. Now there's a medic station that you can see from the colors is for... capital ships and bases. There's an oxygen tank. Don't build this one. You have access to that in the ship, but it won't do you any good. You need this one for oxygen. And basically the oxygen station is going to work where you can essentially get in this, and if it's next to a tank, you put the oxygen bottles in the tanks fill up, and then this is the station that gives you air in your suit. So that's how that works. There's a fridge. I believe this will keep things from spoiling. I'm not 100% certain on that. We've got a food processor, which allows you to make better food, or at least more potent. A large fuel tank is now available, and you can see that there's different cockpits and so on. There's a gravity generator. So by building the large constructor, you get access to way more blocks. Science lab. Now some of these that say deco, I believe that stands for decoration, so they may not actually have a functionality at the moment. I'm not 100% certain on that, but I believe that to be the case. Oops, didn't mean to do that. So yeah, that's a basic base setup. I'm going to go ahead and throw my materials back in here, since we have power now. And let's go ahead and make some metal plates. Again, we get 10 for each one, and it costs us 5 ingots of iron. Wait, that's silicon. This is iron. Alright. And it costs us 2 plates to make 1 block, so 10 plates will make 20 blocks, or 10 blocks. No, sorry, I had that backwards. 20 plates will make 10 blocks. Sorry, my bad. Looks like our buddy ran off somewhere. I should probably eat at least 1 ration. The easiest way to do that is to put it in your hotbar. You can select it. You can see over in the corner, emergency rations are selected. Left click, and your food bar goes up. The next thing we want to do is get a oxygen system in place. I may go ahead and do that off camera in between here. And if you guys, again, if you guys want to see more on this game, do let me know in the comments and leave a like and all that good stuff. Lets me know that you want to see more. And I will try to work on some stuff and get things prepped for another episode, so on and so forth. Let's see how we're doing here. So we got blocks. So just to show off how this works, you can see again, you place it in your hotbar, and you can kind of just build. And if you wanted to remove it, you would use this guy, which is our removal tool. You can see ammo is 0. Hit R. You'll reload one of the charges in your inventory, and it will have an ammo count of 150. There is no animation, so you kind of just have to listen for it and watch your ammo counter. Same with firearms as well. Just FYI, I'm trying to think of anything else that would be kind of important. And if we needed to, we could always grab 1 fuel pack, run back over to the escape pod, give ourselves some more air. I'm going to try and build... we'll need one of these and one of these before we can do that. So we need 5 metal components, 1 control device. That's actually pretty cheap. And what's the station? This one's a little bit more complex. But the other big thing is you'll notice these growing plots and a plant grow light. Now, I don't really have time to set all of this up. We're already closing in on a pretty high time mark. I was kind of trying to do a crash course as well as a first impressions, but I think it kind of expanded the timeline a little bit more than I intended. But the way those work is you will place... Actually, I can probably place these here. I just can't really set up the light, I don't think. I might be able to. Let's see if we can do this. I'm setting it up in a plus type sign because if you put it 1 block above this, so for example, if we had a single block here and then 1 block above it, and in this 1 block space, if we put the lamp, which is the growing light, plant grow light, it would only cover that block, but if you do 2 blocks above it, then it will cover a plus pattern, so a total of 5 growth area plot things. I don't know how else to describe that. So what we're going to do is place 1 block here, 1 block here, and we will need to go up 1 more, up 1 more, over 1. I think I'm calculating this right. So that should put us 2 blocks above the area. So you can see it's both of these are lit up. If we had another one here, here, and here, they would all be lit up as well. So that will allow the crops to grow. I'm actually really, really happy that I managed to get some of this in place. I wasn't sure. I am going to have to cut it right after this, though, because we're running really, really long. Oh, geez. Gun at the ready. Yeah. I don't know how hostile that hostile mob is. Oh, dang! Oh, he's moving the ship. That's not cool. And reload. I am going to add these to my hotbar just so I can see how much ammo I've got. Yeah, he went down pretty quick. Yeah, we got some raw meat off of him. That's kind of gross. So again, I like this element of it, that you can kind of... Ah, crap, he's in the way, though. Get out of my way. Man! Cargo box. Oh, wait, no. It's over here. I think it's this one. Yeah! Sweet. Grab all that. And at some point, maybe I can show you... Here we go. So let's grab one of these. So, for example, what I was meaning before, a small cargo box can be used in all different types of bases, and it usually requires 3 metal plates and 1 control device. So if we... what is it? Remove his left mouse button. So if we left-click on this... Well, I think you can remove it. There we go. So now that box is gone. But I don't seem... I think we might have gotten some more metal plates, but we didn't get everything that we needed to rebuild it. So that's part of why I'm leery of destroying things at the moment. Once I've really can be certain that there's really no more use for them, then we'll totally just scrap that ship and just take what components we need and store them elsewhere. Hey, at least it kind of works like a beacon. It's kind of cool. Whee! Alright. So, tomatoes seems like a good idea. Pumpkin, wheat, good idea. We'll take that off. What else we got? Corn. I don't even know what some of that is. Pumpkin. So let's start with wheat and corn. Seems like a good starting plant. So then we just place that there, and the growth lamp will cause them to grow, and then we can walk over them and activate them and get food. So that will help us start off our food supply. So again, let me know what you guys think. If you'd like to see more on Empyrion. I hope I'm saying that. I think it's Empyrion, Empyrium. I honestly don't remember, and that's awful. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you would like to see more on this game, I'd be more than happy to start some kind of series on Saturdays where I have a variable time slot and stuff like that, or maybe more frequently if everybody really wants to see a lot more, because it is brand new. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. In the meantime, I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, and I will see you all later. Peace.